Trump officials are holding high-level talks with Ukraine about a peace deal with Russia. This comes as House Speaker Mike Johnson has denied Biden's request for more aid to Ukraine. Watch this.
I'm not planning to do that. There are developments by the hour in Ukraine. I think, as we predicted, and as I said to all of you weeks before the election, if Donald Trump is elected, it will change the dynamic of the Russia war on Ukraine. And we're seeing that happen. So it is not the place of Joe Biden to make that decision now. We have a newly elected president, and we're going to wait and take the new commander-in-chief's direction on all of that. So I don't expect any Ukraine funding to come up now.
Elbridge Colby is a former Assistant Defense Secretary under Trump, and he joins me now. Elbridge, what would a peace deal, Russia, Ukraine, what would it actually look like?
Well, Stuart, great to be with you. I mean, I certainly don't want to get ahead of the president-elect, who's a consummate deal maker, in exactly what that might look like. But I think you see a lot of pieces moving. People see that Donald Trump is for real. He wants to make peace, but he's also not somebody to be toyed with. We know that from his first term. And I think you've seen that the Ukrainians are coming. They met with his transition team. It was reported Vice President-elect Vance, General Kellogg and others, Congressman Waltz. And there have been signals also from the Russians of an openness to negotiation. So exactly what that looks like, I don't think we know. But I think a key part is going to be the Europeans stepping up, which President Trump has also been on, frankly, for about 40 or 50 years. And you actually see some movement there. The Financial Times reporting today that the EU is considering defense bonds. I mean, marvelous to see that actually the Europeans will actually stand up if a president holds them to account.
I think it's the Trump effect, actually. It's rippling across the world.
Exactly.
Here's another one for you. Trump's Middle East envoy. He's in Qatar and Israel. They're pushing for a Gaza ceasefire before Trump's inauguration. Could there be a ceasefire and hostage release before Trump takes office, January the 20th?
I certainly hope so. Again, we know that President Trump commands respect in terms of his willingness to make threats and follow through on them. For instance, his comments on Truth Social about the hostages, his willingness to back that up. But it's also a very focused and calibrated demand, very reasonable, that Americans care for, and was on the campaign trail. The American people voted for that. But we also see the ceasefire in Lebanon, which, again, happened after President Trump was elected. And, of course, Biden and his team want to take credit, but they've been vainly trying to do something about that for over a year, and nothing's come of it. Even the Iranians, Stuart, are getting the memo. There's been reporting that they're interested in sort of trying to accommodate the new Trump administration. So I think we see, again, this winning combination that President Trump brings of strength, but also an interest in peace and a willingness to negotiate in a flexible and pragmatic way. We can't get that soon enough. Jake Sullivan was admitting yesterday that our stockpiles are bare, that if, God forbid, there were a war with China, we'd run out in a hot minute. So they're leaving such a bad situation. I think that's really important for people to understand as they prepare for a much better situation under President Trump. But it's a really bad situation right now.
Well, then we've got France's government has collapsed. The prime minister was ousted in a no-confidence vote. This is political turmoil in France right before Trump gets there this weekend. What's the significance of that? Trump goes to Paris. He's looking like the president of the United States, and he's going to meet with Macron in political crisis. What's in it for us here?
Well, a couple things. I mean, I think the reopening of Notre Dame is kind of a civilizational event. I think all of us feel hopefully an affection and a support for that. And I think it's interesting that President Macron was very critical of President Trump. You see how people actually behave, like Justin Trudeau as well. He invites him to come to the reopening, and I think President Trump is magnanimous and gracious to go. I think the other thing I would say here is, remember Angela Merkel, the former chancellor of Germany, a couple years ago, going to Harvard and prattling on about being audaciously about being the leader of the free world. I think a lot of these people who have gone with these meetings in the G7 with Joe Biden, Trudeau, Macron, Schultz, et cetera, they're getting their comeuppance. You know, the government in France is falling, or is at least failing. The government in Germany has fallen. The government in Canada is on the verge of defeat. The government in Japan has fallen, the Kishida government. And I think there's a real wind at the back of Donald Trump. And there are a lot of people out there, both previously opposed, who are changing their spots, but also people like Prime Minister Modi, Prime Minister Netanyahu, President Duda of Poland, who want to work with President Trump.
It's all change. I've got to get this one in. You are being considered as a replacement nominee for Secretary of Defense, along with Governor DeSantis from Florida. Would you go back to the Trump administration?
Well, I don't know what about those reports. I don't know where they're coming from. What I will say is I make no presumptions, but I'd be very honored to serve in the Trump administration in whatever role I could have a positive impact in implementing President Trump's agenda. I think it's about President Trump's agenda. He's run on America first, on peace through strength. That's the agenda I believe in. It's the agenda the American people have given him an incredibly strong mandate for. So I'd be honored to serve wherever I could be and make a positive contribution.
Elbridge, thank you very much for being on the show today. Always appreciated. Come back soon.
Thank you, sir.